Before we get started, we'll take a quick look around the shop. It's not a whole lot. So we've got tool chest, which actually just holds miscellaneous bits and paint supplies and stuff like that. Then back here, we've got the air compressor and hose. And then we've got the tool wall. Not a lot to see. 2 cordless drills, both of them pretty cheap. We're gonna get here. Then in this top drawer, we have several different sanders. Over here is a box of clamps, table saw, and the radial arm saw. Or not radial arm saw, sliding miter saw. Don't know why I zoomed in on that. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to take some simple pine 2x4 studding, and we're going to turn it into a chair. Okay, so they say don't use your table saw as your workbench. Well, that's for people who have workbenches. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure the back spine of the chair with 49 inches. Okay. And then from the other side, we're going to measure the front legs, which is going to be 19 inches. Now, each of these cuts is going to produce 2 legs because these boards are going to get ripped down. There we go. So, about to get noisy. Fine. Their front legs. Now, the next thing we need to do is cut our skirts. We need 4 of them at 15 inches. And it's really important that these are all the exact same size, even if they're a little over, a little under, as long as they're the exact same size. So the first thing we do is we make our cut, our first cut. Now that we've got that cut made, drop the saw, lock it into place, and we're going to set up a stop with this clamp so that when we cut out the next 3 skirts, they will be the exact same length as this one. I get that real good. All right. And I'm going to have to get a fresh piece of 2x4 for that. So we'll get this piece of 2x4. Big old knot at the end, so we'll use this end. And because I don't have a true stop block, we're just going to have to place it real gentle against the clamp so we don't risk moving the clamp. Square it up. Hold on tight. Hold on tight. And here's skirt number 2. Thing, very gently against the block. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but we cut right through a knot right there. That's going to be a bad binding surface, so we're not going to use that skirt. I'm going to chop the rest of this knot off. And then we'll just cut another skirt. Now, while we've got this set up, we'll cut our back pieces as well. But instead of coming from 2x4, those come from 1x3 or 1x4. But they also need to be the same 15 inches. So give me a second to go get my 1x4 and I'll be right back. Okay, so apparently I used all of my 1x3, which is, or 1x4, which is really unfortunate. So we're going to have to make do with 2x4 and rip it down the middle, which is super unfortunate. Not very precise. So we're going to make another 15-inch cut. Big old knot over this. Yeah, I'll rip to the other side of the knot. All right, so a 1x3, or 1x4 is actually 3/4 of an inch thick. We got two nasty knots here, so we're gonna have to rip this down. The only way we're gonna be able to do this, we're gonna raise this blade all the way up. I don't know if that's showing up on the video or not. All right. And you can see we're not quite getting all the way up. So we're going to have to run it through like so, flip it over, and run it through again. And that's going to require a whole lot of sanding. In fact, since we're going to have to do it twice, the more friction you put on the blade, the more straight it is on the saw, and the more chance you have of burning the wood. We're going to lower it down just over half. Now to set up our 3/4 inch rip, really simple. We just set the rip vents. Hard to see. 3/4 of an inch. Tighten it down good. Now to protect our fingers, even though this blade's not going all the way through, it's not really all that dangerous. But to make sure we get as straight a cut as we can, we use what's called a feather board. And this is a nice nifty little thing. You just set it there, push the board up against the fence tight, push the feather board tight down against the fence, tighten it down, and that way you don't have to worry about pushing this way and down at the same time. Okay? All right, let's plug this puppy in. All right, we'll give it a shot and see what happens. gotta say, I'm pretty pleased with that actually. Nice smooth surface. You get a 3/4 inch board. But the only reason this really works is because pine is a really soft wood. If you try to do this with hardwood, you destroy your saw. So we got this knot, so we need to make sure that's on the outside. And we're going to do this one more time. Yet again, another really good cut. Usually when I do this, I get a ridge down the middle where the blade doesn't quite cut all the way through, so I'm really happy with this. So now we've got all of our pieces. All right, so now the next set of cuts we have to do, they're also what's called a rip cut. So when you're cutting across the grain, like we did on the miter saw, that's called a cross cut. When you're cutting with the grain, it's called a rip cut. So we need to take these 2x4s now, and we need to produce 1.5 by 1.5 inch boards out of it. We produce 2 of them. Great thing about it is it's 1.5 inch thick, so we don't have to go this way, just down this way. So the first thing I like to do is I like to make a real thin cut to try to get just a little bit of a straight edge to work with. Just the featherboard. Right, so what that does is, I don't have a joiner, so I can't get a real straight edge. What that does is gives me a nice clean edge to work with to get my 1.5 boards. So now I set the fence to 1.5 inches, lock it down. Lock in the featherboard. And we all right, and these will make up the 2 front legs, although usually I have more excess. I'm wondering what's up with that. But you see, it's the exact thickness of the regular 2x4, so we're going to do the same thing with the 49-inch board. And you can see here, it's got a really bad edge there. I wish I'd have seen that when I cut it. That's going to make a really ugly spine. I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to trim the edge off of here because this board is 3.5 inches wide. I should be able to lose most of that edge if I just go ahead and rip it without cleaning this edge up. I'd rather have the factory edge here than that edge there. So then we set up our featherboard. Push stick. so you can see we got rid of most of this, but there's another way we can hide this and get rid of it, and that's when I cut the taper, which will start here and then kind of taper down to there. I'll set it up so that that goes away in the taper, which is the next thing we'll show you. Now the taper is really cool. So what I did was I made a little sled here. And what happens is the wood will rest in this sled here. It'll cut along the edge of this OSB, so when it gets here, it'll start cutting. It'll cut straight across and taper all the way down. So we get a consistent taper. And it just slides right into the groove of the table saw here. So just like that. And as you can see, it sits right up against the blade of the saw. So to set this up, and since we want to take that bad edge away, need to find it again. Here it is. So since we want this to go away, we need to make sure that it's going to be inside the taper. So if we set it up here, that's where it is. This is going to cut all the way through, and we know that that taper is going to go away. And the board lines up on the guide, so we've got a nice straight edge. We just clamp down the back. Okay. I got 2 minutes before this memory card runs out. So I'm going to raise the blade just above, and this is really, really simple. Just like that, we have a nice taper, but we also got rid of almost all of that bad spot right there. So before the memory card runs out of room, we'll do the next one. And when setting this up, what we're looking for is, we're going to take this rounded edge from the factory edge, and we'll get rid of that with this as well. Get rid of a couple of things we didn't want to have to keep. Tighten the clamp down good. Just like that, all of our cuts are made.